Welcome, history enthusiasts, to a captivating journey through the corridors of political power as we uncover defining moments that shaped our nation's destiny. We'll start with the definition of political history. This field of history examines the exercise of power, the formation of governments, the rise and fall of the political leaders, and the interactions between various political entities. It delves into the political conflicts and diplomatic relations both within a nation and on the international stage. First, monarchies. Around 5000 BC to 500 BC, irregular rivers in Mesopotamia led to the construction of canals and organized individuals. This eventually resulted in political allegiance and the emerge of the first authoritarian monarchies. Also, religious figures emerged at this period because predictions related to weather conditions were associated with religious figures. During this time, in Europe, the primitive megalithic culture was prevalent. Around 1700 BC, barbarian tribes speaking Indo-European languages, and they were skilled in bronze making process. They began to dominate the coastal regions of Atlantic Ocean, and these tribes became the early roots of European. Sedentary communities and nomads. Interaction with nomads and sedentary communities led to development of civilization because in nomadic societies, leadership should be earned through guidance rather than imposed forcefully because the individuals in these communities are self-sufficient. Leaders are chosen through a selection process. On the other hand, settled societies have a hierarchical belief system based on obedience and faith, and they view leaders as divine. Interactions between nomads and settled societies led to establishment of new rulers and aristocracies for the sedentary communities. An example is the Mongols. They emerged in the late 12th century and made significant contributions to the global reach of civilization. After 15th century, the Mongol invasions played a crucial role in the rise of Europe. Now we'll see Western dominance, modern and global world. We dive into three parts. First, we'll examine the main causes of the rise of the West. The main causes of the rise of the West. First is the heavy plow. Agricultural development in Europe was facilitated by the invention of the heavy plow, which allowed for more efficient cultivation of land. Second is feudalism. Feudalism is the relationship between lords and vassals. For example, at the end of 900s in France, the lords elected a king and they became his vassals. In Germany, the vassals elected a king in 900s AD, and he later became, by the way, the Holy Roman Emperor, and that gave the rise to the Holy Roman Empire. And in England, the king was not elected, but conquered by William, the Duke of Normandy. The English kings gained more authority on the island than the continent. That led to increased security and social peace. And if we take a look at Eastern feudalism, the key difference is that the lords acted as government officials. In contrast, in Europe, lords were centers of resistance against central authority. and that political freedom in Europe significantly influenced the Renaissance. But I will come to Renaissance after the emerge of the trade. In the 10th and 11th centuries, fundamental institutions in Europe began to take shape, ensuring local security and replacing pirate ships with trade vessels. As trade flourished, Western and Northern European cities emerged when merchants spent extended periods in trade locations. The increased number of cities led to rise in food demand, and that prompted peasants to send to new agricultural lands. And serfdom legally ended, and by the 15th century, serfdom had virtually disappeared across most Europe. And these and the life of the cities and trade led to Renaissance. From the 11th century to the 15th century, the Italian peninsula dominated the Mediterranean waters because the trade flourished with the Eastern Mediterranean. The Renaissance emerged in despotism-free states or metropolises like Florence, Venice, Holland. However, the fall of Constantinople in 1453 put an end to this dominance and redirecting the attention beyond the Mediterranean, and that resulted the age of exploration in the late 15th century and reform. In the Middle Ages, princes had rebelled against the church. However, in the 16th century, the church began collaborating with the Holy Roman Empire, and that led some princes to consider breakaway. Common people were against church power and saw reform as an opportunity to establish a powerful authority against the injustices. Reformation within the church aimed to correct its course and increase its power. For monarchs, reform meant continuing the flow of money to Rome and seizing control over religious authority, education, and church property in their own territories. This led to shift of religious authority from pope to monarchs, and that formed national churches, for example, Anglican Church in England. And if we come to consequences of Reformation, the average citizen's perspective on reform was not about completely severing ties with Rome. So Martin Luther in 1400s, at the end of 1400s, the leader of German Protestantism called upon princes to support his teachings and eventually turned into submission to the state's authority. Martin Luther's translated Bible was a huge impact in Germany and Western Europe. It was translated and was read by people. These Protestants formed a strong faction in England, but freedom of thought and belief were suppressed in Germany. A group of German Protestants united with princes and city-states to wage war against the Holy Roman Empire, and even Catholic French King Francois supported this alliance due to political interests. And what was the political interest? Was Francois. It was the counterbalance the Habsburg universal monarchy and maintain power balance in Europe. Francois formed an alliance with Protestant German princes and Muslim Ottoman Empire. France's foreign policy until the Second World War was based on this sustaining Germany's division. The Peace of Augsburg and Westphalia. The war between Protestant German princes and Catholic principalities resulted in victory and the Peace of Augsburg. but it also led to Germany's division with the 30 Years' War in 1600s. The 30 Years' War ended with the victory of Protestants, and Peace of Westphalia in 1648 was the first secular conference. It was not signed by the Pope, and the papal representative was not included. Peace of Westphalia eliminated the threat of Catholic Habsburg dominance in Europe. It was successful implementation of the power balance policy against Habsburg superiority. Consequences of Reformation. The papacy became a separate religious organization from the state. The church took its current form. In states where religion continued to collaborate with the government, there would be a prevailing intellectual stagnation. We see that too. And that is the end of this lecture. At the next lecture, we'll dive into the topic of the West's dominance at sea.